is a manifestation of the presence of Columba or of any of the influencing lives that came to this landscape is actually in the landscape and in the naming of things and places, because that becomes a very significant part of your own life, the tangible links that you have with the landscape. And it maybe harks back to an earlier kind of Celtic Christianity, where there was perhaps a very strong sense of the spiritual sense of what was imbued in land, in physical features.
Many people come up here on holiday and they feel, we had an American group of pilgrims come, and they term Skye as a thin place. It's a spiritual place. There is something hard to describe in words, that you go to parts of Skye and you're just imbued with a spiritual peace which makes them think and gives them space to reflect on their own faith and their own questions in their life.
I think just the use of TV and mass media, we just don't actually think so much about our own spirituality and that side of our life, and we're so distracted all the time with all these other things. So I think that plays a big part, and we're also so much more in our little compartments. I mean, the communities, there are strong communities on Skye, and maybe that's what keeps churches stronger here.
Bloomin' heather fresh for the mountain. Get your bloomin' heather fresh for the mountain.
Kwiaty! Kwiaty piękne, tulipany!
Nigdy nie przypuszczałam, że będę tak długo tutaj w tej Szkocji.
Ceylan today.
Nie ma w Szkocji prawdziwych pomidorów.
Everything must go.
Look how
Yeah.
Ojej.
Open for business.
Our pub is open.
Rock the wind and clear days dawning. Flaws the clouds, he'll stir gaudy o'er the bay. But there's mair no a rough wind blowing through the great glen of the world today. It's a thought that would gar our rottens, all the rogues who gang Alice fresh and gay, tag the road and seek other lonings with their ill ploys to sport and play. to war when the braggarts crousely crawl, nor we wains fae Pithead and Clacher, mourn the ships sailing down the broomy law. Broken families and lands we've harried will curse Scotland the brave, the merry men.
So where is this that we're sitting now then?
Where I'm sitting just now, Julie, is part of the John Brown's shipyard. But this part of the yard where we're sitting was the old engine shop. They were the engineers. When John Brown's years ago, it was called John Brown Shipbuilding and Engineering. In 1967,
Right.
they separated. I started in Brown's at 16 years of age in 1948 as a joiner, apprentice joiner. And the reason why I wanted to be a joiner was because in these days shipbuilding there was always redundancies and etc. That if I had a trade as a joiner I could also work out in the building industry.
Aye, of course you can.
But I stayed in the yard till from 1948 to 1996.
It's incredible.
48 years.
My family all originate from Clydebank in the surrounding area. Myself, I was born and brought up in Clydebank. I went to primary school in Clydebank and secondary school in Clydebank. My mother worked in Singers, so did my dad. Then my dad went to the shipbuilding. Now, was I supposed to follow in their footsteps? Absolutely not. I couldn't have thought of anything worse.
Is retail better than industry? Is that what you're asking me? From the point of view where this isn't dangerous. Okay, I'm not breathing in stuff that's going to kill me when I get older. There's that, I suppose, but then this isn't safe either, is it? Because of the global economic crisis. There's no such thing as a safe job anymore.
As far as yourself was concerned, what brought you to consider working in a shipyard?
It was actually...
If you bear in mind that when we worked in the shipyards, the female labour, as far as the skilled trades were concerned, probably the most skilled, if you consider on the technical side, were the tracers in the drawing office. Yeah. But of course there was typists and canteen workers, and of course the women who worked on the ships, French polishers and cleaners and things like that.
Aye,
but there certainly was no apprenticeships in those days for girls.
No.
Right, not saying it was not possible then, but it certainly was not a consideration at that period. It should have been, but it wasn't.
Aye. No, it's changed days now.
Yeah. And what was the attraction for you?
For me, it was actually similar to yourself. The idea of being able to work other places as well as the yards.
Yeah.
Getting a trade and being able to use that and go elsewhere if required. I'm more than happy to stay where I am though. I'm enjoying it. It's different from what a lot of my friends are doing, so it's I've got better stories at the end of the day, I think.
Things have changed, things have evolved. This area here, I can't remember the names of the shops apart from Fine Fair and Super Sweet and all these kind of old shops that don't exist anymore. But it's really strange and quite uplifting actually for me to say that I remember it before it was here, and now I'm a franchisee of one of the best shops in the shopping centre, if I don't say myself.
My granddad told me a story about how he had 5 jobs in one day, and he walked the length of the Govan Road just going into the shipyard, and somebody told them in every shipyard that the one down the road was paying a little bit more, and you left that job and walked to the next one and had 5 new jobs in one day. I don't think you could do that these days.
We actually had in the joiner's shop over 100 apprentice joiners. And that, you know, and if you look at the other trades in the yard, the electricians, plumbers, welders, platers, all apprentices. So maybe about 20% of the workforce was apprentices.
Wow.
All changed days.
Indeed, my year was a big intake. We had almost 100 taken on, but in the last few years I've been taking on about 20, 30 apprentices every year.
My father worked in Singers, my father worked in the shipyards, and it's really changed a lot now with them shutting down. It's taken a lot away from Clydebank itself. The shopping centre's done a big difference, bringing more business and things like that. But no, it's a big major miss. The high streets as well, things like that. Like big supermarkets, when they moved into high streets, things like that, they're taking a lot away. They're like shutting down the smaller shops, like the corner shops, things like that. But it's changed in a big, drastic way through the working class thing, through the shipyards and everything else.
The argument is that main picture down there, they all say that's Dan Muir, and Taz told me one day it was, somebody argued me the other day, said it was Clydebank, and I said, I'm sure Taz told me it was Dan Muir. And then I had to come and ask you, remember? And I said, I don't know.
Train station, it's when Clydebank had 3 train stations. That's the train station that's not there anymore. So people they fight at it, proper argue.
Aye, and then they came out. In fact, there's one woman that comes in, she says, that's me standing there. That woman with the coat on, remember? She's a really old woman. And I believe her, I do think it's her.
Probably is.
Aye. She says, I remember that picture. I remember when it got taken.
It was way back when Singers and the shipyards were open. That was, everybody went shopping in the corner shop. There wasn't a shopping centre open. So everybody got a turn from fruit, veg, fishmongers, butchers. Everybody went in there. But now the supermarkets are just taking everybody and they're just doing all their shopping in one place, which is, I believe, is wrong. Well, I was looking at old pictures the other night and there was there was a shoe shop, Saxon, and it used to be up in the top corner, it was Fine Fair. That's just the shop supermarket, but the old shops, to go back to it, you've got to look at the old pictures. The memory's not so good.
People do have a right to work, they need to work. Because if people don't work, they don't get things done. There's no industry, there's no economy, there's not. It's important for people to work.
we're sitting upstairs in a room in the stove just upstairs from where we were working, and I've decided that, seeing as it's the last day of the project, it might be quite good to get them to have a blether with me just one at a time. And so we're sitting around a table. I'm sitting on the floor, and Ali's sitting over on the windowsill. And I say to him, we're meant to be going up to the Camera Obscura today, but we can't go, I think, because it's raining. Remember, the girl was saying if it opens, it's really old, and then if the rain gets in, you can't use it. So I'm hoping it gets a bit clearer, but I'm not really sure, he says. And then I say, but do you want a seat or anything? Well, I was wanting to talk to you a bit about the project and just like what you've thought of the days we've been on, but also the point in this project wasn't so that you would learn loads of stuff about history. Like, we don't want you to necessarily quote the dates or anything, or even remember the names, but it was just much more about, I mean, it's been really, really fun getting to know you a little bit and just going up into the hills, and I've really enjoyed that. And whilst we've been doing all this stuff, it's been almost like beginning to get like snippets of stories about you and Jamie's and Connor's every day, like what your stories are. And we've been teaching you, you know, we've been taking you up into the hills and talking to you about the Covenanters and about the history, and trying to tell you about what these people were sort of trying to fight for. But then, like, remember when we were up the hill and it was kind of like that's what you're willing to fight for, when we were talking about your stories and what's your reality when you're in Dumfries, and like the things that are important to me might not seem that big to other folk. Do you know what I mean? He tells me a story about how he wasn't allowed to get anything to eat for 2 weeks, and so he just walked out. He says, I told him to F off and then walked out. Ask him what happened after that. He said he went for his lunch and then he came back and he just shoved me in the focus room and told me to do work, but there was a computer there. Had to do it on a computer, so I just done it. I just drew, like went on games and that. So I asked him, what do you think about people telling you what to do? And he says he hates it. Well, it depends on what they're asking him to do. So John Hunter, the Covenanter that was shot at the Devil's Beef Tub, was apparently with a companion at the time, a guy called Welsh. And according to one account of what happened, it's thought that Hunter and Welsh escaped to the solitudes of Courthead, near the source of the water of Annan, in order to escape or to evade capture by Colonel James Douglas. The River Annan rises at Annan Head above the Devil's Beef Tub and beside the location where Hunter was allegedly shot. And so this is how their escape was portrayed. Colonel Douglas, however, having got notice of their flight, pursued them with his troop and soon gained ground on the fugitives. When they saw that there was a likelihood of their being overtaken, they directed their course to a place called the Strott Steep, which, being difficult of access to the dragoons, they expected would afford them a safe retreat. By this time the horsemen were near, and began to fire upon them, and Hunter, who it seems was fully within the reach of the shot, was struck by a ball which proved fatal. He fell among the stones which he was scrambling, and his life's blood oozed forth upon the rocks, where he expired. His body was removed and interred in the churchyard of Tweedsmuir. Now, there is a second version of events that was recorded in a letter in 1892, and it tells a slightly different story. According to the letter, Hunter was visiting the Welshes at Corehead when it was reported that Colonel Douglas and his troops were coming up the glen. They then fled on foot up the hill at the back of the house. When 2/3 of the way up, Hunter was seized with a violent pain in his side and he couldn't run any further. So, telling Welsh to go on and save his own life, he waited there to meet his fate. Up came the dragoons and shot him down like a dog. But if you sit it alone and don't sit it in context with everything else that's going on, you're just perpetuating a myth. Have you got the execution of the priest of Cavern when he tried to talk to them charitably? What about all the Episcopalians who were thrown out of their homes and tortured in 1689? Have you reported them? And the fact is, you know, there is this constant, perpetual nonsense talked about Presbyterians as the great martyrs. They weren't the great martyrs. Most Presbyterians were happy to abide by the law of the land, and the law of the land was that if you weren't prepared to take the oath of allegiance, then you had to accept that either you didn't stay here or you faced the consequences. Put you in the context. If they met you in the street, they'd have killed you because you wouldn't have been prepared to agree with them. And if you dared to say to them you were an atheist, I tell you, they would probably have disemboweled you alive. James Kirkwell of Sundywell, Dunscore, betrayed by James Wright in Hollywood, where he lurked, was shot in the White Sands of Dumfries. His name is not on the fugitive roll. Captain Andrew Bruce, who apprehended Kirkwell, offered him the abjuration oath, which he refused to take. He was told to prepare for death. He sang the part of the 11th, 6th Psalm. Dear in God's sight is a saint's death, and then he prayed and read the scriptures. He was offered pardon if he would betray other fugitives. This he disdained. He would not buy back his life at so dear a rate, he replied. He asked for respite for a day. No, no, said the captain. No more time. The devil of peace you now get made up. Kirkwell answered, Sir, you mistake it. You cannot mar my peace with God. This retort enraged Bruce, who cried to his men, Dogs, make ready, for the devil of peace shall he get no more. Before he could pray again, the muskets laid him low.
Ой, ради ми дугору підняться,
Columba that I think is most important for me is the fact that Columba was away from his comfort zone. He was away from his touchstones, and he went to a people to bring to them the good news of Jesus Christ. You know, when you think of, you know, the conversion of the Picts and all the rest, he was going to a people that weren't the people he grew up with, that he knew all the time, and so it was kind of scary, and he got out of his comfort zone and he went. And for me, that's the biggest message of Columba for today, because I feel that we are way too comfortable and we like people to come to do what we do. But do we actually go to be with them where they are, to experience what they experience?
So what does faith actually mean to you?
Faith to me means sort of the same thing as like belief and trust, sort of putting your trust into someone, like the relationship and the connection that you feel you have with someone.
I think it means the same to me as well, like it's faith in your family and it's a close connection that you've always kind of had, like that sort of bond between you. It's like, it's hard to explain when it's just something that you've always had, and it's that sort of trust and everything.
Yeah.
And belief.
Do you have anything that you think represents it, or?
I don't think that you can't show what it means, but you can feel it.
Yeah.
It's more like a feeling than like an object to me.
But it's different to different people. Like more religious people probably have a totally different interpretation of what it is.
They probably have like sort of an object, like the cross. That could represent faith to them as well. I think it could be lost sometimes. I think people might lose it easily, and I think that probably brings it back together. Maybe if you do have an object, it's sort of brings it back to that sort of centre point.
My understanding of it might change, though. I think it probably will as I experience different things. It probably will change what I think about it.
On Skye, it can be quite split because there are very religious people. Somehow we kind of join in the middle, like kind of get an understanding of each other's points of views, but then I don't really know what it's like in other communities. But I know for myself, living on Skye, it can be quite a big split between religious people and non-religious, and how we both have different perceptions of faith and what it means to us. And I think when dancing, I think you have faith in your teachers and your friends that you're dancing with.
Especially in like groups and stuff, you've got to sort of work together to get the end result. And like emotionally, sort of, I don't know, sometimes I can link how I'm moving and stuff to experiences and how I'm feeling emotionally, I guess.
Yeah, I feel the same. Like it's that, I think, because I've been dancing for quite a long time, and it's that one thing that I've always kept going, and I've always had a strong bond with it. I think it does mean a lot to me, like, to keep on going. And it's kind of made me realise, like, who I actually am as well. Like, I can just be myself in a dance class. I don't have to, like, hold back. I just feel it's where I'm comfortable, I think. So there is that, like, connection as well.
The church isn't a building as much as it's a collection of people that are together, and really they should be the heart of the community and doing things with the community and for the community, and be a place that's welcoming to people that are maybe uncomfortable sitting on a pew or uncomfortable entering a building because of maybe the connotations that it has for them. So I think it's about kind of meeting people halfway a lot of the time as well, and just being open to them.
We've come to a state where I feel in vast areas in the Western world we've become just a religious institution, and for me religion is deadening. Spirit now is enlivening.
Now, whether you're sort of interested in this sort of thing, these are musket balls from Culloden battlefield. It's spinning and it's hot and it hits something, and then obviously softens with heat.
And the details suddenly just got really kind of sophisticated.
Yeah.
It's in 1736.
Yeah, because before the Union, Scotland was the backward country. England was the more, the more successful. I don't know about civilised, but it was the more successful. It had the better trade links. It had, although it did try and quash Scotland's trade links, it wouldn't let them set up a colony in the New World and things like that, and it just blocked them all away. But Scotland was the more socially backward country until the Union. There's no reason why we couldn't have caught up with them. I think it was inevitable that they would have joined. I do think it's inevitable. I don't think there could have been any other way. Otherwise, I think Scotland may have died and ceased to have been a country altogether. But I think Scotland should be now given a chance to become more independent and more, and more separate from the rest of Britain.
Och a cheartach ag Stuart, sé do chúis réin má léirigh, go bhfuam gachní vacum an an cochuig nat over. Chachró is chachirich, ha mi cé ach mo chéile, get a gaach mi minner gon sian santil ach líne, ó rún gealog. O young Charles Stuart, it's your cause that has grieved me. You took everything from me in this war in your interest. It's not sheep, it's not cattle, that I miss, but my first love. Though I were left all alone, with not a thing but a shift, my fair young love.
As an easygoing Highlander and a Caithnesian, I think that we need to be getting along with people, and we need to get along with everyone within Europe. Possibly, I think that, as a country, we need to maybe say, well, we've been children for quite a while, and we're like, it's time we became adults and ventured out by ourselves, kept our English friends and our European friends as well. That's how I would maybe see it. We were once a nation, but not to be a nation all by ourselves, be a nation with our friends all around us. That's how I would see it.
Growing up in America, I grew up in the South where we had a civil war during the 1800s. So very much I can identify with the battle that took place here because I studied that period as a child growing up. And even earlier today, I mentioned that you can see the carryover from this period in time, even in U.S. history, of a conflict that took place. And so I think these are significant events because whether you're from the North or the South, you can identify with events of a time period that had an influence on people's lives. But I always stood by the fact that a country united is better than a country divided, and I think the United Kingdom overall is in a much better state as a united kingdom versus a divided kingdom. And just like in the US, the same thing I feel today, a United States is better than a divided States.
I don't believe we're in the 18th century. As dressed as I am, I don't actually genuinely believe it. I believe that human beings have matured. And I think the 18th century is a time where you have the Enlightenment hitting against a barbaric society. So these things will happen. I'd like to think we're not as barbaric today. Honestly, that's the way I feel. Yeah.
This union project kind of hinged on, I guess just the group. It always is the group that's the most important thing. It's kind of them that guide everything in the creative process. Through looking at union and unification, the first port of call's family and your partner or children, where you've been brought up. I guess that's where you find your own personal unification before you look politically at things or historically especially, and hopefully using a process that's quite heavy process based, like metal foundry work, where you're using your hands to make the moulds and come up with your ideas even before you get near a foundry. Around that table I imagined hands working and voices speaking, so they would be discussing the union while coming up with this idea of what their own union was, and hopefully that would cross-feed through their ideas while they were working.
I think the union, when it first happened, was wrong, but I can understand the reasons behind it. I can understand why the men that put the union in place actually did so. However, from a historic point of view, it was a case of being sold down the river, sold for gold, and that's not a good thing. And it seems to be the way of the world at the moment, that everything revolves around money. I think identity is what makes us the multicultural nation that the UK currently is.
What I like about Scotland's identity is the fact that it has one. I didn't grow up being, this is going to sound wrong, I didn't grow up being proud to be English, whereas my children are growing up and they're proud to be Scottish. They were born up here, and there's not the cultural inclination to be proud of our country.
English.
Yeah.
I've moved up here, and in my own mind, this is my adoptive country. I'm still proud to be British. I'm still proud, very proud to be English. But moving up here, I actually found in myself a sense of identity, and an identity that I didn't have south of the border. It's a home. I've lived in various places, and this is the longest that I have ever lived anywhere. And I'm happy here.
This idea of identity and union and who you are, where you come from, where you feel all your morals lie and your sensibilities and things. And it is obviously where you've grown up or somewhere else that you aspire to live or potentially to be that way. Whether that'll shape the actual referendum in terms of the union and things, probably will. I guess it is that thing of if you play enough sort of bagpipes and sort of haunting melodies over a battlefield, then you're going to get more people voting yes, probably, because it is a kind of mass media thing. So I kind of tried to avoid that with the project in terms of just looking at their own personal sort of unification in terms of family or important dates and emblems and symbols within their life that meant something, and I think that's what they tried to represent and shape with their fingers. I didn't see a change in the participants and their idea of the union in the bigger picture, but maybe hanging out together, maybe got to see differences in each other's ideology and complete similarities So maybe they became more comfortable being around each other and being around archetypes, as it were, because the process brought everyone together because you were all doing the same thing.
I actually started when I was about 15. My brother used to go out with a hairdresser, so I used to go when I was a wee lassie, and I used to go round to Chapel and do our homers, shampoo and take colours off while she was doing our homers. So that's how I got started, and then started at 15, left school and started in a salon at 15, and that's me ever since. I'm 39 now. I love my work. I must say, I love my work. I don't even feel as if doing hairdressing is work because the clients are that nice, and it's a wee place in Drumrye, so it's everybody that comes here is for around about Clydebank, so you get that pally with them. It's not really like customers, it's more like pals. I always wanted to do hairdressing. They used to say to me in school, if you took as much time doing your hair and your makeup in the classroom, you'd be top of the class. So I was always in the toilet doing my hair or doing my pal's hair or putting makeup on, so it was always something I wanted to do. Even if it was when I was a wee lassie, I was like doing dolls' hairs or something.
It was great. There was a Woolworths and everything in Clydebank, and that's where you went on a Saturday. You didn't go away into city centre or anything then. There's no big shopping centres or anything. It was much better, and you went to shops that weren't all self-service. You knew everybody in every wee grocer's shop or anything. Nothing like nowadays. Everything was personal when you went to the butchers, or you went to the bakers, or went to the grocers. You knew everybody. I think the young ones get a raw deal nowadays, truthfully, because there is no work. The government's closing everything down, and these young ones, they just get into a rut of not working, and then they don't know anything else. Sad, very sad.
Well, in my opinion, I agree on that because there's not really much out there for anybody, so basically most teenagers are actually kind of getting the idea on what's the point. I mean, if there's not much out there, then there's not much choice for a teenager today.
Everybody should be allowed to go to work, and everybody should get a job, because if you get routine in your life, I mean, that's the same to me. If you've got routine in your life, you've got everything. If you've no routine, what are you going to get up for in the morning?
There was a lot of jobs in the shipyards.
There was lots more opportunities and more like shops running about instead of houses.
And you could get jobs at younger ages.
Ages of 16, 17.
No, there was ones that pure worked at the age of 14 and everything.
I think everybody was satisfied to take wages home every week now. Don't know how young men bringing up families feel.
It's just there's a lot of people that like the prices are going higher, so then some employers they're just like paying people off because they can't afford having so many people around, so people are losing their job because of it. and that's why a few young people can't get into jobs because they don't have enough space, they can't afford it.
Keep that shut. My father always said that all my life. You keep these open and keep that shut, they'll always get on in the world.
Well, I'm eager to work.
I'm eager to work, but I'm still lazy.
See, told you.
The reason I became an engineer was my sister. She was courting a marine engineer. I think it was a uniform she fancied, right? And he said to me, right, you fancy the shipyards? And I said, yes, I did. As far as shipbuilding is concerned in the Clydeside currently, we certainly cannot exist with the situation with BAE Systems only. There has to be some consideration of an expansion of the industry one way or another.
Yes,
and that's something the governments will have to address.
Well, that's what's happened, didn't it? We were talking about that before. You used to have Singer.
Used to have Singer.
The shipyards, if you think of all the pubs they had because of the amount of people that worked in Singers and worked in the shipyards. So a lot of the kids have lost that work ethic. I mean, you've got new, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 generations unemployment now here. You had a community within a community. You had people traditionally their fathers worked in Singers, worked in the shipyards. So you had that, generations of that going on, and we lost that. I mean, I know you could probably put an argument up because it's a global recession and things like that, but nevertheless it's had an adverse effect in the place.
The thing about the shipbuilding industry, of course, is that it's the finest training in the world, in my opinion, because you hit every discipline. Not only the disciplines of the job, but you're dealing with people who they're wonderful in themselves. And they are. I mean, there's no doubt about it, a shipyard experience. Comradeship and laughter and storytelling and highly intelligent people, highly qualified engineers and designers. And people think you're building ships. It's in the old days it wasn't.
Building characters, Jimmy.
Character, yes.
People's characters. And the beauty of working in a shipyard, you weren't working just with your own trade. When you're working on a ship, you're working with electricians and plumbers and welders and all that sort of thing. All trades, doesn't matter what trade you were, you guarded your rights like you would guard your pocketbook, you know?
Yep.
It was important. And one of the only sad thing I ever felt about the shipyards was that when you completed a job, there was vast redundancies, you know? And the likes of in Browns here, you were finishing the ship off and they would pay off all the outfit trades that would join us electricians. And when you started a new ship, they started welders and platers and etc. You know? Balance the books.
Used to call it the hunger and the bust.
Hunger and the bust.
Right. You were hungry, then you got a bust of work. Then you were hungry again, you got a bust of work.
Young people and that, they want to go out running like a professional boxer and all that kind of stuff, you know, and it makes them want to train more and a motivation. But if this club wasn't here, people that weren't working, they'd probably end up getting into drugs. What else is there? Not making money.
Well, it gives them qualities for work as well, which we say about the young fellas that are coming down here and they're hearing good things. So they're hearing people that are working, saying them to stick in at school, get as many qualifications as they can, etc. This gives them it learns them a discipline as well. It gives them communication skills because they're socialising down here as well with people. It maybe gives them a network, gives them people that they can model themselves on as well because they can see older people looking after themselves as well. And it's, I think that all comes into it. It gives them a discipline in their life, it gives them an outlook for some of them. Because we have got people here that's unemployed within the club. We've got a couple of the joiners that haven't worked for the last year. Now they've worked all their life. Guys like Marty and that have worked all their life, and all of a sudden they're now finding that where they're going through a situation where they've not got any work, and some of them will tell you that. at least this still gives them their 2 nights to work off their anxieties, etc.
I would move, but I'd still stay in Scotland.
In all honesty, I probably would as well. But it's just depending on like the job circumstance.
Yeah, if it's permanent or not.
Yeah. Because I wouldn't actually want to move away from like the place I live permanently, because you'd probably miss it too much, and you'd probably want to visit, but you might not have enough time. In all honesty, I think the government's using the money for themselves.
Yeah?
I think they're spending it in Bentleys and nice houses and just squandering it. And we're sitting left with nothing.
They've put us at risk for reasons that we don't even know.
That's probably why there's such a low
taxes and
rate
gases
of
and all that, it's going up.
Employment.
Petrol.
Aye, because our parents pay tax and they get more or less nothing in return.
They're only giving the money from tax to the boys to get new hats. No,
Yes.
Dive to